So today, it's Gordon Dalgleish again, and I'm delighted to have Wilma Erskine with me. Welcome, Wilma, from hopefully you're safe and healthy at home in Northern Ireland.
Yes, sitting out here in the countryside. Beautiful day. We've had fantastic weather.
Yes, that's what I understand, speaking to my mother in the west of Scotland, and that the weather has been unusually pleasant for April.
I think it would have been very difficult not to have had this. If we hadn't had this good weather, it would have been quite difficult, is how I would describe it.
Indeed. So Wilma has enjoyed a career in the golf industry which spans almost 35 years in the same job, which is indeed no small feat. And during that time, she's witnessed one of the great transformations of the game, certainly from the golf travel perspective and also from a championship perspective at the highest level. As absolutely Wilma has been as up close as you could possibly get. In late 2019, she retired as general manager of Royal Portrush Golf Club, where she served in that role since 1984, the year that PerryGolf started. So I can genuinely say that we kind of grew up in the business together. So walk me through how a lady in 1984 became secretary, general manager of Royal Portrush Golf Club, is an industry that's relatively male-dominated, and it must have been quite a change.
Well, it was, but I mean, we have to go back a little earlier because I was in 2 golf clubs before Royal Portrush. So I did business and finance and hospitality across the water and finished up at the age of 22 thinking, oh, what am I going to do here? I loved sport, played lots of different sports, and someone pointed out this advert, secretary manager of a golf club. Lo and behold, I applied for it. Age 22, I arrived as secretary manager of Portadown Golf Club. And at that stage, I didn't realise just how much it was a male-orientated job. And after a year or so, I thought, I really enjoy this kind of life. And I think I need to be noticed more, so I need to go to a better club. So I moved on and got the job in Mazarine. And then my mother saw the advert for Royal Portrush Golf Club. And I thought, oh, step too far. However, this was about, was going through difficult times, and they had gone through a lot of secretaries, mainly sort of military, retired banking. And there was a couple of people on the committee sort of thought, well, here's somebody young whose business, it's not all about drinking gin and playing golf. It's about running and golf management of a golf course and golf club. So lo and behold, I got the job, started on the 14th of January, 1985, and 35 years later, retired.
Just terrific. Now, also important for people to understand some perspective on the time scale. In the mid-1980s, very much in the kind of midst of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, which thankfully have all changed.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I arrived, there was a declining membership. We had no visitors whatsoever. It was maybe the local societies came along. It was very much, there was, the golf club was in trouble. It had no money. It had a lot of problems with back on the greens. The clubhouse was falling down. So they were really in a bad situation. I wouldn't say that I changed it, but you work together and you work with the committee, and there we are now with a thriving we had for this a 5 million turnover business in the world ratings, and hosted a great Open Championship last year.
Well, I think you're understating the significance of your impact when you as you recount that. But I noticed that you, over the years, going back to your male-dominated comment, that you became known as the boss. Do you want to just kind of make reference to how that nickname came about?
Well, I sort of have a couple of guys in the office. Most golf clubs would have ladies, but I sort of changed the mold and had a couple of male people. So people coming in to maybe complain or wanting to talk to somebody who was the boss would come in, and my office was to the side. So, they would have looked at the male people in the office, wanting to talk to them because they were male. And they would say, no, just hold on, we'll just get her here. And I would sort of come out, yes, can I help you? They said, oh, we're looking for the secretary. Is he not about? And I said, you are talking to the secretary. No, we mean the secretary of the club. And I said, well, I'm the boss. And then moved on to sort of Darren Clark calling me the boss. And it sort of became a wee nickname. It's hard for people to understand in a royal club, you know, because it has been predominantly male orientated. I see it as a job, and you're there to do what is expected of you, and regardless of what female or male you are.
Absolutely. And I'm sure for those that were taken aback that it was a lady that was the secretary, it probably made the conversation a little bit more in your favour, kind of took the wind out of their sails.
It's harder, but as I said to people, I'm not a female. I'm the secretary of the golf club. I'm a position, and I'm not, so gender doesn't come into it. It's a position. And that's what I keep telling fellow lady secretaries. Don't think of yourself as a woman, think of yourself as a position.
That's great advice. Great advice.
I mean, I put my foot in it with your brother, Colin. At one of the very first dinners we had with the tourist board, I turned around to say to him, do you play much golf yourself? Yeah, a wee bit. And I said, all right, what kind of, well, I just played in the Walker Cup. And I went,
that's funny. That's good. So anyway, knowing how much business that Royal Portrush enjoys now and for the last several years, I noticed that when you made a comment in another interview about when you took over, that there was like a handwritten book for bookings, you know, in pencil, which kind of speaks volumes to about the change
totally.
from then to now.
Yeah, we had a diary, and you wrote in for both the Dunluce and the Valley any bookings that were coming along. So it could be the Valley, it could be the local bank coming, 20 people, and they were going to have golf. They were going to have something to eat afterwards. And, you know, in between, you might have one 4-ball, you know, a name, and then USA. And that was it. So, you know, the Americans hadn't found Northern Ireland. We were in the middle of the Troubles. They were all going, they were coming into Dublin or Shannon. They were going down to Kerry. Kerry were very strong at marketing in those days. Northern Ireland being avoided. But over the years, you know, we went out there actively to meet people, to talk to the media, to get them to come up. And we would have linked in very much with Royal County Down. And so there was a lot of work went on in the background to persuade people Northern Ireland's a great place to come. And once we got them to come, you know, it was amazing. I mean, I remember the very first tour operator, it was before PerryGolf, Jerry Domworth from JD Golf Tours. Yep. And I'm coming up one awful January, and I said, what does a golf tour operator really do? And it was amazing. And now look at it, it's such a difference in the business over the years.
Yes, indeed it has. So the Troubles end kind of in the 2000, give or take. When was the first opportunity kind of start to emerge with respect to the Irish Open could be hosted at Royal Portrush?
Well, I go back further again to 1993 when Royal Portrush was invited to host the Amateur Championship. Sir Michael Benalek and the amateur hadn't been held in Ireland or Northern Ireland since 1960. So this was a great opportunity to showcase the RNA, what Royal Portrush could do. So that was very successful, huge numbers. Then we went on to the Senior British Open, 1995 to 99, and again then in 2004. So at the end of 2004, you know, 5 and 6, there was nothing on the horizon. And there was a small group formed in the club to look and review the golf course, the tournaments, and the future of Royal Portrush. So really, you need to have tournaments to get promotion, to get the media to write, to get world ratings, etc., etc. So this was all on the scale, and we wrote to the RNA, we wrote to European Tour, and we formed a good relationship with George O'Grady in the European Tour. And he originated actually from Northern Ireland. We sat down with him, and it was very much, it was a dream. And we needed £1.5 million. The golf club obviously didn't have that kind of cash. So we had to get stakeholders involved and got the government. And we weren't really going anywhere. And then I had a chance meeting to meet Arlene Foster, who was the head of DETI, which was the Department of Economic Trade and Investment, and managed to get a one-to-one with her and the Permanent Secretary up in Belfast in Stormont. Explained the concept of economic benefit, what Americans would pay, and for an average day it's £600 to £700, and what this will do to promote Northern Ireland. So for a small investment of £1.5 million, you'll get a bigger return.
Mm-hmm.
And she got it straight away and said, I really like this idea. She supported very much, and we had a very successful Irish Open. We worked very closely, obviously, with George O'Grady, because again, George was taking a bit of a gamble with the European Tour coming north. Yep. And we had hoped to have it in 2013 because we were having the amateur in 2014. So it wasn't going to happen in 2013 because it was already agreed to go to the south of Ireland for the gathering.
Mm-hmm.
We threw in, well, we'll take it in 2012. We would get it, and we had 6 months basically. We announced on the beginning of July 2012 we were having it in June, and I'm telling you, we did a lot of work, but it was very successful. The numbers were fantastic. European Tour were very happy. Northern Ireland Executive were, and we got great publicity.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and we also had mystery shoppers from the RNA who were coming, because you've got to remember, in at the back of all this, there was always this chip away about the Open returning. And, it did seem a big task. But, I think Peter Dawson, he was getting, this is where our Irish golfers came in, Darren and Rory and Graham, etc., and Podrick, all were chipping away to Peter Dawson. Have you looked at Portrush? Why didn't you come to Portrush? And I think poor old Peter Dawson was worn down in the end, that he did come. And again, he saw a great golf course, and I think he saw a project to mark his retirement, and he took but again, was very successful. We got the Northern Ireland government on board again, and as I say, we had a great, we hit it at the right time, and we had a great team involved.
Yeah, so often these are just, timing is everything. And so
timing was perfect, absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't have been better. And as I say, we had obviously a lot of work to do. You imagine Martin Ebert and Peter Dawson going out on an awful day and coming back in to meet us. There was John Bamber and Philip Tweedy. We were sort of the three who were sort of always in negotiations. And they came in from an awful day's weather and said, we can see a solution, but you might not like it. It means losing 17 and 18 and building 2 new holes and taking over the valley. Well, I mean, it sounded a step too far. But something, the club got behind it, the council got behind it, everybody got behind it. And once you sat and thought about it, it seemed very sensible. And I mean, Martin Ebert, he's a very wise, he thinks a lot, and Peter Dawson again, they bounce things off each other. It was a Harry Colt course. It was very important to retain the Harry Colt effect. And, how it was all completed within such a short time scale, and we managed to keep the business going, was quite amazing.
It's kind of one of these where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes. As I say, where there's a Wilma, there's a way.
Exactly. Yes, that could be a tagline for somebody.
Yeah.
So as you reflect back on it, do you recall the first time that the idea of the Open returning was raised? And I'm not talking about over the third drink in the bar, but in a serious meeting, and there was discussion about it.
Yeah. Well, it was really after the Open in. Where was it? Peter did a lot of questioning at one of the Opens. By the Northern Ireland media about, have you been to Portrush? The golfer saying, you've got to go and look. Have you gone and looked at Portrush? And he was getting quite a hard time. And after that Open, he actually came to Portrush, and he'd been there a couple of times to walk the course, to look at the course, to see. He sent his team over to look at infrastructure, and it was a big task. But Peter Dawson saw it as, here's a new venue. It's something refreshing. Let's invest in this. Northern Ireland want to really support it. And they actually, the RNA thought that our government, the Northern Ireland Executive, were very accommodating and were very full of praise about how Northern Ireland was actually easy to work with. Can you believe that? You know, so it came from just simply looking at the golf course to see, was there a possibility? Martin Ebert and Peter Dawson going out walking with committee members. And as I say, the eureka moment, what, you know, we could do it, but you might not like to hear it. So, you know, I would say we just hit it at the perfect time.
So in all the planning meetings that you had for the Open, I mean, it's just a significant infrastructure build and all the moving parts. What surprised you the most in terms of the logistics of the event or considerations for the event that you hadn't really pondered before? Were there any couple of things that you kind of got your attention?
I think the amount of detail that went into the Open was amazing. You know, when I have the folder for the 1951 Open for the preparation and the actual Open, and it's just a few pages. And when you see how many meetings and how much work went into, you know, the detail of creating the course was, you know, it wasn't just somebody going out there and digging. It was all to scale. It was all designed. The amount of infrastructure that went in, you know, between water coming in and sewage coming out, fiber optic. I mean, the detail was, I mean, when you think back, because you were sort of working day to day in it, you don't really get the grasp of it. But when you think back about how much work, because the RNA were very keen to put in as much investment to, as they would call it, a plug-in Open, so they can return down the line without having to, you know, annoy the members or having to add lots of extra. It's just the enormity of it. You know, when you see the infrastructure started going up on the 1st of April, and when you saw the tentage, because they sold a lot of corporate, and just everything that went on, you sort of think, wow, I'm in the middle of all this.
Yeah, that's terrific. Now, I've been very fortunate over the years in golf to play golf and meet a number of successful folks, but I think you stand alone as the only person that I've known or spoken with that has had the Queen over for lunch. Can you walk me through how that happened and the kind of the pomp and ceremony that went along with it?
Yeah, well, it was all quite sort of straightforward. I got a call from Buckingham Palace and the government about 9 months previous to say, look, there's a high-ranking principal in Northern Ireland, and you know, could we maybe host a lunch, because we'd had some people before in the past attend the club. And I said, yeah, no problem. I presumed it was going to be Prince Andrew or Princess Anne or someone. So this entourage from London arrived one day, and this chap introduced himself as Private Secretary to Her Majesty. And I went, oh, well, that's a giveaway. No, it went all, I mean, and you do have all these things that, you know, is it ever going to really happen? And I do know that actually, because I did check, that she's actually not even been to any other Royal Golf Club, I believe, during her reign. So this was quite special. And she came along with the Duke of York, or the Duke of Edinburgh, before he retired from public life. So she was going to Bushmills to open or unveil a statue, then come to the golf club for lunch, meet lots of these community people, and then she was going off on a little train journey in the afternoon. So she arrived, and she was very pleasant. Obviously, the captain, the president, etc., all met her. I was in the background. There was a table of people from the golf club, but she always likes to meet the staff on her departure. So I got my course manager and the head pro, and there was about 7 or 8 of us, and we were there as she was leaving. So the Lord Lieutenant, she would introduce you to the head one in our group, which was myself. And it's quite daunting, because here's, you know, the monarch, and you're going to meet her, and all I could think was, my mum would be so excited. introduced to her, and she said to me, "Now, what do you do?" And I said, "Ma'am, I'm like you, I'm the boss." And she laughed. You don't know what you're going to say. And she just thought this was hilarious. And there's a great photograph of her shaking my hand, laughing away. And then she met all the other staff, and we've got some wonderful photographs to remember. So it was a marvelous day.
That's terrific. These are fond memories for you. Now we kind of skipped over a little bit in the lead up to the Open, but the changes to the course. I mean, obviously overall a significant improvement. But what's your general take as to how the golf course has evolved and matured is probably the wrong word, but just kind of modified over the years?
I mean, the course was redesigned, obviously, by Harry Colt, and golf has changed dramatically. Let's face it. And for the 1993 Amateur Championship, we actually brought in Donald Steele, the great fan, to look and review the golf course and make any suggestions. Because let's face it, these golfers are now hitting the ball much further. So his advice at the time was plant more natural coverage, move bunkers forward to catch the ball, and maybe build some new and bigger tees. So that was all carried out. And then, of course, obviously the Open arrives. And we had a test, obviously, with the Irish Open. And we realised that the course wasn't tough enough. It was a fair, I mean, Royal Portrush done this class is a fair course. You can see there's no hidden hole, shots, etc. So Martin Ebert, he had taken over from Donald Steele. So Martin Ebert had always been there for the previous 20 odd years under Donald Steele. So he came in through the R&A and reviewed the course and came forward with the course changes. And we're pretty substantial, let's face it, but we had to communicate with our members. It was most important to bring the members on. And we produced a lovely booklet to explain what was it all about, why was there a need for it. And I think, to be quite honest, the majority of members saw it as a much greater improved course. And obviously there was a test of the boys' championship for the Open, and then the Open itself. So we've been able to get a lot of statistics. There may be a few tweaks for perhaps the next Open, but overall, I think the R&A and the golf club were very pleased with what happened.
Yes, links courses, as you know better than I mean, it's the weather which kind of makes or breaks them in many respects. You've got to have a great underlying course, but the wind direction can change.
It's very much, it's the weather that changes. I mean, we get a lot of USA people coming over, and, they see the golf course and they say, what, and I keep saying, and they laugh because what we would describe as a breeze, they see it as almost like a storm. And it really does baffle them, and they almost enjoy going out in the rain as well. They seem to see that as something else to battle against, and it's really amazing. But I always say Portrush, the Dunluce is a very fair course, but it is the weather that makes it. No 2 days are the same.
Yeah, yes, indeed, you can get various weather conditions in the one round of golf.
Absolutely.
As you reflect back on the Open, any kind of particularly poignant memories, one or two that just kind of stick out as to, an interaction with a player or something that went on?
I have to say it was all a bit of a blur, because when you're working and you're in the background, you're not actually seeing really what's going on out. But I have to say, I went down the first day on the Thursday to watch Darren Clark tee off, because I've known Darren for a long time. And it was amazing the number of people that turned up to see him tee off, and it was very emotional. And, I could see Darren, he was emotional. I was standing actually beside his mom and dad and sister, and they were emotional. And it was really quite, because Darren was one of our great advocates to bring it back. And I think he especially felt very proud. He was sort of like our little ambassador for the week. He put his arm around all the new golfers who were coming, and he played with lots of them, and he gave them time. And I was very proud that he did that for Royal Portrush, which was great. Another special moment, I have to say, is sort of a bit off. On Tuesday night, the golf riders, they have a dinner.
Yep.
They honours 3 people. So Graham McDowell, he won an award. Francesco Molinari, he won Player of the Year. and Wilma won the Michael Williams Award, which was contribution to golf. And it was quite amazing to see that the golf writers that I probably annoyed and chased for all these years voted me in. I mean, there was people who have won it in the past. Sir Michael Banalek, Peter Dawson, Sir Nick Faldo, Sevi Ballesteros, and there's Wilma in amongst that lot. I mean, it was really very special and something I felt very proud of.
Well, as you should, well earned. Now, in the same vein as your open memories, I'm just curious if over the years, most likely probably the last few years, any notable kind of celebrities, even that have played at Portrush that you've been introduced to, and
yeah, well, over the years we've had players such as Ernie Els, who's an absolute lovely man. Phil Mickelson. I mean, there was quite a few came over the last 10 past years. They were very relaxed. You know, nobody bothered them. They had their time to themselves. You know, we have Rory. He would appear every so often because he's a member. And it was very funny one day because he arrived up. He actually phoned me, and I said, "Look, come up and get out before the visitors, so that nobody, so you can get a free round." So we arrived up. Funny because there was these Americans sitting on top of the balcony looking out, and Rory went over to the first tee, and this American said, "Hey, does that not just look like the spit of Rory McIlroy?" So he didn't even realize it was Rory McIlroy, and it was. Lots of great people. I mean, we've had Condoleezza Rice. I was interested in her, and through the Masters, through John Carr, who's a member, and she came up, and absolutely lovely lady, was just so enthusiastic about her golf, was so down to earth, and she absolutely adored it. And I fixed her up. She came with a friend from Stamford and fixed her up with the lady captain and the lady president, and they had a wonderful ride. And again, very low key, sent me a lovely letter afterwards. And then, of course, we get crazy people like Bill Murray, who pops up every, so there's been a real eclectic mix of people.
That's fabulous. So you've been very generous with your time, and I sincerely appreciate it. As you kind of reflect back on everything and you go back to the early days in 1984, I'm sure the full magnitude of the economic impact that you've had in your own quiet way around the north coast of Ireland must kind of sink in at times as you drive around and you see new hotels or restaurants or just the caddy activity that might take place.
I think one of the things I'm very proud of is the fact that Northern Ireland was seen last year on television as being a great place to come and visit. We've been through the troubles. It's been a hard sell over the years. And I think I'm very proud of the fact that Northern Ireland came out looking a wonderful place to come. And I think the course looked fabulous. And, economic benefit has come in. I mean, the week of the RNA were able to confirm, they had estimated they'd hoped about 80 million for the week only, but it came in at 106 million. So everybody was very pleased, the RNA and the Northern Ireland Executive. And that's not taking into effect, what happened in the money spent before and after. So, it's been a real tourism boost to this country. And again, it shows a little small country like Northern Ireland can host a major event. And I think that's very important to understand.
Indeed. And I think it also shows a pretty good return on investment for that original £1.5 million that you talked them into for the Irish Open.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, put it this way, we're now firmly on the map with the Irish Open and, the Open. When we did our original agreement with Peter Dawson, it was for 3 times, not once, but 3 times. So there's a legacy there which will, and I feel very proud to be part of it. So I think it's something that's fantastic for Northern Ireland, and I hope people will appreciate years to come.
So I saw where Peter Dawson made reference to the fact that he was Wilma'd on a couple of occasions. Would the 3-time deal be part of that Wilma'ing experience? I
think, well, shall we say, I believe in getting straight to the point. He and I were great. I have to say, I'm very fond of him. I think he's got a great mind. I think he put his neck of the line for coming back to Northern Ireland. I think, you know, Northern Ireland owes Peter Dawson a lot, and Arlene Foster, our First Minister, you know, because they had to take a chance, and it could have worked. It did work, but it might not have worked. So, you know, he had a great vision, and I think we have to be very proud of that and appreciate it.
Well, Wilma, thank you so much for your time. Please stay safe and healthy, and hopefully I see you the next time I'm in Northern Ireland.
Absolutely, and I hope to see you sooner than later.
Absolutely. You take care.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.